Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Cassie. I talk about video games, do video game reviews, unboxings, pickups, and all sorts of things video game related, and sometimes even other nerdy things too. In this video, I wanted to talk about my favorite licensed video games. Now we have Spider-Man 2 comes out on Friday, just a couple of days away. Today's Wednesday, so yeah. Just a couple of days away, and it's getting really high reviews. 5 out of 5s, 10 out of 10s, a lot of 9s. There's a couple of 8s, but mostly overall, I think it's Metacritic's sitting at like a 90 or a 91 right now. So I'm super excited for it. So it just kind of brought me to the topic of licensed video games and which ones are actually my favorite. Now, when I say licensed, I mean video games that are based off of already existing TV shows, movies, comic books, pretty much any existing franchise prior to the video games releasing themselves, like superheroes or characters that already exist in other media. There's a lot. There's a lot of them that I really enjoyed. There's actually, I'm trying to keep it down to like one per franchise, but it's going to be really hard to do. But I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But you know me, I usually ramble on a lot. So let's get into it. So my first one would be Batman Arkham Asylum. Now, this actually got me back into DC because I liked it so much, and I really loved the backgrounds that they went into depth on like the villains and stuff, because Batman villains are very interesting to me. I think they're really cool. They're actually like, I'm more interested in them than I am with like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and all of them. I actually really like Joker. I like Scarecrow, Poison Ivy. Those are a few of my favorites. And it was just a lot of fun. And it actually got me into like the DC animated movies, because those are fantastic. The live action stuff is kind of hit or miss. The Dark Knight trilogy was good. And then there were a couple of other movies that were okay. You know, I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, to be quite honest. So I wasn't really, they were okay to me, but I wasn't super into the 80s Batman movies. 80s, early 90s. But Arkham Asylum, we played it for Game Club. This was one of the first games I played at Game Club. We've been running this Facebook group for, it's probably been 8 to 10 years or something now. And the first couple of games I played that I remember playing was Halo Combat Evolved for the first time, and Batman Arkham Asylum. And I'll put a link in the description below for Game Club if you're interested in joining. It's on Facebook and Facebook only as of right now. Thinking about doing other things, but I haven't really come up with anything yet. Anyway, back on track. It really got me into even reading comics and stuff, and I'm not really Marvel versus DC person, but in ways there are some of the the villains and some of the backgrounds of the DC that I actually prefer, and I really like the animated movies a lot. Even the animated TV show too. But Arkham Asylum also had Mark Hamill voicing the Joker, which I think he's the best Joker. Granted, he's animated, but his voice just really is kind of iconic for Joker. Now, also, Kevin Conroy was also Batman in these games too. And I met Kevin Conroy at the Indiana Comic-Con. It was Indianapolis Comic-Con. This was back like 6 years ago or so. And he was really nice. And I know that the Suicide Squad that's been delayed and has had a lot of trouble is his last voice acting gig that he had before he passed away. But anyway, yeah, Arkham Asylum, definitely check it out if you haven't yet. I have not played the other Arkham games yet, so I really need to get to those. I don't know what's taken me so long, but I did finally pick up the Return to Arkham collection, so I need to play through City, and then Arkham Knight I've already got, so I've had it for a while. I haven't gotten to it. It's my, ever-growing backlog, just like everybody has. Now, also back in like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis days, we had a lot of like movie-based or like Disney based video games that released, and some of them were really, really a lot of fun, especially some of the 2D side scrollers. You also had like the little Tiger Electronics that had like Pocahontas, and I think what did I have? The Lion King on there. I think there was a Little Mermaid one. But for me, like, I did not grow up with a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo. I went over to my friends' houses. I was a little bit late getting a console compared to other kids. So I didn't really like play a lot of Genesis when I was younger, until like I was able to buy my own Genesis when I got older. And then I like bought some games, but I really liked Aladdin. Aladdin is like my favorite Genesis game, actually, besides a couple of other games. But the music was very iconic and nostalgic, and it was just a really fun game. Now, Aladdin on Genesis was made by Virgin, and then I think Aladdin on Super Nintendo was Capcom, I believe. So they were quite a bit different. I didn't really play much of the Super Nintendo one. I do hear a lot of people say that the Genesis one was preferred, but they were both great. Of course, there was also the Lion King version as well, but I didn't play that one as much as Aladdin. I just really enjoyed that game a lot. Now, this one would be kind of a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. This one was on the Nintendo 64, and it was also on PlayStation. And I think it's a hidden gem, to be quite honest, because I don't ever hear a lot of people talk about it, but this is Tarzan on Nintendo 64. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it had a lot of similarities to Donkey Kong Country. So you had to collect Tarzan in letter form through the levels, just like you collect Kong, and then there were like levels where you would kind of like surf on the vines, and you'd have to jump and like miss branches and like duck and like collect all the things as you were surfing on the vine. And then there was also just like the typical like platforming elements as well. And then Clayton was the boss at the end, and I thought it was a really fun game, and overlooked a lot. Plus it had, the classic, like, I think it had Phil Collins' actual, like, music in there. But yeah, so great game. And I did not play the PlayStation version, so I don't know if they were the same or not, but anyway. And then SpiderMan, there were a lot of entries for SpiderMan, but I didn't really play a lot of them. I did play Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 2, and I really liked that game a lot. I think it's one of the first games that I actually beat as a kid, that I remember beating, because there was a lot of, I don't know, I just had a problem with beating games. I would start them over again, and I never like would get to the end because I get distracted and I'd go off to something else. But every time I came back, I was like wanted to start off fresh again, so I always restarted. But there were a few games on like GameCube and PlayStation 2 that I started to like actually like fully complete. And Spider-Man 2, based off of the Spider-Man 2 Tobey Maguire movie, which those are still my favorite. 1 and 2 are still my favorite movies when it comes to Spider-Man. Besides Into the Spider-Verse, those are my favorite. Not anything against like the new Spider-Man. It just I don't enjoy it as much as I did Tobey Maguire for some reason. So. But there was also, Spider-Man 2018, which I think a lot of people did not expect it to be as good as it was. Insomniac did a really, really fantastic job with this game. Sure, it was full of bugs. I had some game-breaking bugs that I had to like fully like restart my PlayStation 4 to get out of. But as a game on its own, like it was a really, really fun time. I platinumed Spider-Man 2018. I had fun doing the side missions, even though they were repetitive. And I really liked it a lot. I don't really like that they changed Peter's face later on because I played it at launch, and so it's a little confusing because it looks nothing similar to the original, and I'm not really sure why they did it in the first place. Just doesn't really fit with his voice, and I don't know. It feels weird to me, but I know some people like it. But and then there was Miles Morales, which was a much more polished game, and I think it had a lot better pacing. The story and combat were a lot better, but I don't think I liked doing the side missions as much in Miles as I did in the original. Now, I know that probably is backwards for a lot of people, but I did not platinum Miles. Now, I think I did like collect everything in there, but Miles, I think you had to do a new game plus in order to get a platinum on it. So I don't know how close I was, but both games were really enjoyable. So I'm super looking forward to Spider-Man 2 that comes out on Friday. And this was a very emotional game for a lot of people, and I think this game, The Walking Dead by Telltale, season 1 and 2, especially season 1, is regarded as being one of the saddest moments, or having one of the saddest moments in gaming history. I'm not going to talk about it. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who has not played it. But I was a pretty big fan of The Walking Dead for a long time. It did the series itself did fall off after like the 4th season. The comics, I think they were pretty great throughout. Now I'm still doing the graphic novels. I was ahead at one point, and then I like stopped for a long time, but I'm on 29 of 32, so I'm almost done with the graphic novels, but I did not finish the TV show. I think I stopped at like season 7, I want to say, and I haven't gone back. I'm not going to watch the other shows or whatever that are kind of like, they have Daryl Dixon, which he didn't even exist in the comics at all. The comics were actually a lot more brutal, and I think they were more like Game of Thrones style as far as their brutality. And sometimes I wonder if like HBO would have done Walking Dead, if it would have been like more like the comics. But anyway, I mean, it was pretty good, like up and through like season 3, season 4. It was actually a pretty decent show, and then it just kind of fell off. And I mean, there were bits and pieces that were good, and then like it just, I don't know, mostly kind of died down for me, and now they're milking it, and I'm like, whatever. But yeah, the Telltale Games, they used to be a really, really cool studio. I know a lot of people don't really like walking simulators, but I enjoy them every once in a while, after you've played like a game that's really tough or something, or you just kind of more out like in a stressed out mood or something, and you just want something simpler and cozy, I guess. Although, don't play this if you're depressed because it's sad. But yeah, the Walking Dead was really good. I think they had 3 seasons, but season 1 and 2 were the ones worth playing. I did play Michonne as well, and I've played the other like Game of Thrones, and they had Guardians of the Galaxy and quite a few others, and those were enjoyable, just not as memorable as The Walking Dead was. And but actually, The Wolf Among Us, which I don't think it was officially licensed, but it is based off of the comic book series called Fable. Fable Comics or Fables, I don't know, whatever. It's actually a prequel to those comics, and it follows the big bad wolf called Bigby, and he is a detective in this world with a bunch of fairy tale characters living together, and they're getting murdered somehow, and he's going out to figure out who or what is the cause of their deaths. And it's very dark, but it's really cool. I really like it a lot, and I was really hoping for a sequel, but I don't know if we're going to get one because Telltale's having trouble again, so I have no idea if this is going to happen or not. But definitely check out the Fable comics too. Like if you play The Wolf Among Us, that's actually my favorite Telltale game. I like it even more than The Walking Dead, because that story just feels really unique and really engaging, and I just really like it a lot. And then this was actually a game that I played earlier this year for the first time, and this one didn't get a lot of hype around its release, and I think a lot of people just kind of, I don't know, they skipped out on it or whatever. But Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was a fantastic game. If you're into Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of my favorite Marvel groups, I guess. Guardians, you've got SpiderMan, and then you've got X-Men, and those are my favorites when it comes to Marvel. But I don't know what happened. Like, I think that it just didn't get enough ads or enough footage, or I don't know. People didn't really like go out and buy it. I was working at Best Buy at the time, and nobody was buying it. So, but it ended up being a really, really good game, and don't sleep on it. Pick it up, play it if you're into that. The combat was really good. The music was fantastic. It had a lot of like classic like 80s and like some 70s. I think a couple of 90s hits, but mostly 80s. And I loved the game, and it's more based off of the comics than it is off of the movies. So the characters look more like their comic book selves and less like the movie versions. And then this was actually a game for Game Club also, one of the earlier Game Club games that we played, and I liked it a lot. And it was Deadpool back then it was on 360, but they've re-released it, and I think it's gone up in price and stuff too. But that was a very surprising game. I'm not a huge fan of Deadpool, to be quite honest, but I mean, I really liked the second movie a lot, but I didn't like the first movie as much. But the game itself, Nolan North actually voiced Deadpool. So if you don't know who Nolan North is, he's the voice of Nathan Drake in the Uncharted games, and also in Destiny he is Ghost now, I think. Yeah. It used to be Peter Dinklage, and I'm not really sure what happened to that because I didn't mind Dinklage as Ghost. But I don't play Destiny anymore. I haven't played in a long time, so I can't really say anything. But yeah, he did a fantastic job as Deadpool, and it was really funny, and the game itself was really fun. It was kind of like a hack and slash adventure game. I think it was probably around like the 14-hour mark or something, but it was really enjoyable. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. And then, of course, we've got like Star Wars. There's so many Star Wars games. You know, Jedi Survivor came out this year. I've not finished it, so I can't really like say much. I haven't played enough of it to really like put any comments on it. But Fallen Order was more of like, you know, when it first released, everybody's like, oh, this is like a Souls-like Star Wars. Which it does have combat that's pretty difficult, but it does have like easier settings, so it's not too bad. But I actually really liked the ending of Fallen Order. It just caught me by surprise, and I was like, this is what we need in like a Star Wars game. Like, and I loved the ending. The game itself was a good game. I don't think I'd say it was my favorite, to be quite honest, but and then Cal Kestis is voiced by I can't think of his name, but he's Ian in Shameless, which I'm a fan of too. So pretty cool. But Star Wars: The Force Unleashed is actually one of my favorite Star Wars games, and I know that it's not canon. It was officially licensed and given the go to by like George Lucas. So but Starkiller is one of the coolest characters like I've ever come across in any video game or whatever. Just the fact that he just has so much power, more power than like any of these characters. I just thought he was like super cool, super cool, and I wish he was canon. I really do. But yeah, you know, people can say what they want about those games, but I feel like around that time people really did love those games, and now like looking back, everybody was like, oh no, they're not that great or whatever, but I liked them. And then of course Shadows of the Empire I really liked on 64. I remember one of the opening scenes. Well, there was, I think maybe it was a second or third level where you were in Hoth, and then you had to fly around and tie down the AT-AT's legs, and I was just like, this is awesome. I loved it. It's so cool, especially for it being like a 64 game, you know, like I was blown away that you could even do that at all. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. There's so many Star Wars games, and like I grew up watching the original trilogy over and over and over again. I had it on VHS, the box set, and The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie of all time, and it's just I really like it a lot. I like Star Wars, and even the prequels, even the newer ones. You know, people can say what they want about them. None of them are going to ever hit like the original trilogy. The original trilogy just trumps all of them. I'm sorry, but they do. And they're just, so, I don't know. I just love that universe. It's so cool. Another universe I love, and I actually just finally read the first book, but Lego Jurassic World. I just read Jurassic Park like a month ago for the first time. Great book. It's actually more horror than it is in the movie. But Lego Jurassic World, I platinumed that game. I spent 35 hours collecting everything in that game. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. The Lego games in general are just kind of mindless fun, you know. But I just Lego Jurassic World was the most like nostalgic and the one I had the most fun in overall. Also, I liked Lego Harry Potter a lot too. Both years 1 through 4 and 5 through 7. I have not played really the Star Wars ones too much. I know the Skywalker saga just recently came out, but I think they changed the way the combat was in that. So, yeah, but I'll get to that at some point. But speaking of Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy came out this year, and I still think that is one of the, it is actually like a fantastic World of Harry Potter video game. Of course, Harry Potter isn't in it because it's 100 years before Harry Potter even existed. But they did so much detail with the lore and everything. They just really researched it a lot, and I was so happy that we got that. And people can say what they want about it, but it's a fantastic game, and it's still personally in my top for game of the year. In my top. There are others above it, but Hogwarts Legacy is a contender for me still. And then of course we've got Alien Isolation. I love Alien. Alien is my second favorite movie of all time. The first one. And Isolation is just a really, really fun time. You know, people can say that it's scary, and I don't really I'm easily scared when it comes to video games. Not when it comes to movies. Like, I will watch like all horror movies and I'm like, whatever, you know, it's more like funny or to me a lot of the time. But Alien Isolation is just really, really fun time. I may scream like real quick and then I'll just like start like dying laughing because it's funny whenever a xenomorph just pops out of the vents at you, like oh, but yeah, I like it because it follows Ripley's daughter, actually, I think, which is really, really cool. And then we got, of course, like James Bond movies, James Bond video games, which, of course, GoldenEye is iconic for like the multiplayer and stuff, but I've never really been too big of a multiplayer person. Sure, I played a lot of WoW, and that was probably the gist of it. And I did go over to friends' houses and we did play GoldenEye, and we did play, you know, like Call of Duty split screen, and I did play like Modern Warfare 2 online back, the original one. And those maps were fun and stuff, and I like Tetris 99. But I don't know that counts. But yeah, overall, like, I don't play a lot of multiplayer. But I think, like, if I'm looking back at the campaigns, and these were along the lines of like some of the first games I actually like fully played through as a kid. But I really liked Agent Under Fire and Nightfire. I get the two mixed up all the time, but those two were really enjoyable to me. I played those on, it may have been GameCube. It could have been PlayStation 2, but I'm not really sure. I think it was GameCube. But I played both of those, and I really liked those a lot. And I think the story was fun, and the missions were fun. Driving, racing through with those like really nice like BMWs. I don't know. I had a really good time with those. So Splinter Cell is also one of the first games I remember completing as a kid. I say kid, and I was like, I don't know, I was like in high school or something. I don't know. I guess I was still a kid. I'm 36 now, so. Yeah, Splinter Cell, the first one, and I think it was Pandora Tomorrow that I really liked a lot. Chaos Theory was okay, but I didn't like it as much as those two. And I've been really excited for like their remake or reboot or whatever it was that they were talking about doing. And if you don't know, like, Splinter Cell is licensed because it's based off of Tom Clancy's novels. They were books before they became a video game. And I think they like went through a lot of Tom Clancy and like were trying to like figure out what was. I actually just recently read an article in Game Informer from last month talking about the history of Splinter Cell and how that kind of came about. And they were going through like different Tom Clancy novels, and none of them were really sticking, and then somehow they landed with Splinter Cell and it ended up being a hit. So of course they've got, you know, the other Tom Clancy games that they've done, but Splinter Cell just was really cool, really stealthy. And I think I kind of do like stealth games. Like I like Assassin's Creed a lot. Splinter Cell is really fun. I never did play Siphon Filter or any of those. The only Metal Gear Solid I've played is actually Snake Eater, so, and that's getting a remake. But I did order the trilogy, so yeah. I really like those like sneak around and try to get through things and like kind of like come up behind an enemy and like take them out, sort of games. I think those are fun. And then, of course, we've got Lord of the Rings, and this is the last one I'll talk about. But Lord of the Rings, there was actually a game that we played for Game Club that I actually liked quite a bit, and I've never heard anybody talk about it, and I didn't even know it existed before we played it for Game Club. But it's called The Fellowship of the Ring, and it's more based off of the novel than it is the movies at all. But it kind of almost plays like Fable. And it was on PlayStation 2, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, it's not like the most fantastic game I've ever played, but I had a good time. Also, I like RTS games. I know, like, a lot of people don't, but I like RTS and even, like, turn-based strategy, like Civ. But the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2, I really enjoyed on 360 a lot. And typically, like, I only play RTS on PC because I prefer keyboard and mouse for those. But yeah, it was a fantastic game. So yeah, that's really a long list, and I'm sorry I rambled on for a long time, but those are my favorite licensed games. So let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite licensed games were. I know I'm missing some, but I'm not going to list every single one that I've ever played and enjoyed in the slightest. So what I'm playing right now, I am simply just playing Assassin's Creed Mirage for the moment because I'm at 60% and I've got 2 days until Spider-Man 2 comes out. Granted, Spider-Man 2 will probably not get to my house until probably Saturday or Monday, so I should be able to finish it. I'm having a good time with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I've been a fan of Assassin's Creed since from the beginning, when the first one was being demoed in rental stores and Toys R Us and GameStop, wherever. And I played the demo and I really fell in love with it, and I really liked, the first several entries in the game series, and then I kind of dropped off after Black Flag for a while. Not that Black Flag was bad at all, because it's my second favorite, but I dropped off, and then I came back at Origins, played through that, and I liked Origins quite a bit, but it went on for way too long. It took me like 70 hours, I think, to complete, and because I did all the side stuff. But yeah, and I played a little bit of Odyssey, I played a little bit of Valhalla, but those are great games, but they don't feel like Assassin's Creed anymore. So going back to Mirage has felt really good. It's really nice to go back to what Assassin's Creed was and what made Assassin's Creed good. Although they still don't do the Animus doesn't exist like anymore, like all those things that made Assassin's Creed just don't, I don't know what happened, but it's good. It's not my favorite, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. Like it's fun to go back to, the more stealthy Assassin's Creed, but it does have its issues. The music is actually really good. I do like the original soundtrack. But the thing is, Bassam feels like he moves incredibly slow in comparison to like some of the older games. Like I feel like they, Ezio and Connor and all of them, like they ran a lot faster, I feel like, but I don't know. Anyway, speaking of which, Unity just won for Game Club Game of the Month for November. So we're going to play through Unity, which I did not play, and I've heard since it got patched that it's one of the best Assassin's Creed games. So I'm excited for that. I also ran a poll on Twitter for like my next Game Pass game to play, because I finished Celeste for the first time a couple of days ago. So Ori and the Blind Forest is the next game for me to play. So I'm excited to play that finally. So if you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And this is it for now. I'll see you guys